Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from Blue Collar Nation, and I'm here with my amazing business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague, the Tech Whisperer. How are you, Mr. Sprague?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. We're here quarantining, and we're doing these wonderful podcasts because we're all separate. Unfortunately, we couldn't be under the same roof.
We got a quarantiner getting some sun. I'm up at 6,000 feet, and you're in California.
Yeah, there you go. We have a very special guest today. We have Kelly Schols. How are you today, Kelly?
Good, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Well, Kelly wrote an amazing book called Never Buy the Book. He's an amazing author, speaker, coach, and a success mentor. We're very happy to have him today. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be on here. I appreciate you and Eric for having me on today.
Oh, thank you.
Kelly's enjoying the weather in Florida right now. He's having a good time getting out of Washington where the COVID outbreak happened.
So Kelly, when it all happened, did you just get out of Dodge pretty quick when you realized everything's just getting shut down?
Well, this time of year, I'm not around. If it starts raining or it gets too gray and gloomy, I usually get on an airplane and leave. And at first, everybody was like, yo, you can't be flying. You can't be flying. Well, I was flying.
Yep. You seem to be okay.
Yeah.
Well, you look healthy and you're doing great. So I just finished your book, Never Buy the Book. It was quite amazing. And if anybody wants to pick up the book, it's called Never Buy the Book by Kelly Schols. And a lot of insight here. Why don't you give us, everybody out in podcast land, our listeners, a little bit of a background of your story, Kelly?
Sure. I started in the plumbing and HVAC business when I was 16 years old. When I was 16, I grew up in a very small community, 60 miles north of Seattle, a little farming community, and I was working on a dairy farm, and quite frankly, I didn't like that very much. Well, my girlfriend's dad owned a plumbing company. So one day he asked if I wanted to go to work for him. So at 16, I went to work for him. And the first month I worked there, he had a partner. His partner's name was Steve. His name was Dennis. The first month I worked there, I totaled a car with the company vehicle.
Nice.
I didn't make a very good impression on him. But the thing I knew how to do was work hard. So I worked hard all through high school. Matter of fact, when I was a senior in high school, I was working about 32 hours a week plus going to school. I wasn't a very good student. I barely graduated. I had to actually negotiate my way out of high school. That was when I first learned to negotiate. So
in order, you're a good athlete, which helped a lot.
Yeah, that helped. But by that time, I'd had some injuries and couldn't play sports. So I was getting into a lot of trouble. The only thing that kept me out of trouble was work. So when I graduated high school, went to work for the company full time. Then when I was 21, Steve, who didn't like me at first, had actually become a pretty good mentor of mine. He left the company and went and bought into another company. At that time, I moved down to Southern California at 21. And then when I moved down there, I just moved down there basically to party, drink, and chase girls.
Well, so you picked the right place.
I chose the right place, yeah, especially in the late 80s, right?
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
I was, at least.
So I was down there. About a year after I was down there, so when I left up north where I was living, it was dead. There was nothing going on. Got down to California, and about a year later, Steve, who had left the previous company and started another one, started calling me and asking me to come back up to work for him. And I at that point, like I said, I was just drinking and chasing girls.
So were you plumbing in SoCal?
Southern Cal, I tried everything. From the time I was a young kid, I always had a dream and a goal of becoming a millionaire. Didn't know what it looked like, didn't know how I was going to do it, but by God, I was going to become a millionaire.
Right.
So the plumbing industry, I didn't think that was going to do it for me. So when I got down to Southern California, and the reason I moved down there is my brother Mark was in the car business, and he was down there, and he was very successful. So I got down there, tried car sales, didn't make my my millions there, tried some other stuff, and I ended up back into plumbing. And, you know, they say what the plumbing industry, what is it? The plumbing industry you don't choose it, it chooses you.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch of people say that.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you real quick. You kind of, when you left Seattle and you got into that car accident, you got a job under a house, under a building, and your work ethic changed how people viewed you. Tell them that story real quick.
Yeah.
If you...
So it was literally 1 month after I started working for that company, I got in a car accident. And like I said, Steve didn't take a liking to me very much. So he wanted to try and get me to quit. Well, they were doing all the work on the local hospital up there, and the hospital had a sewer line that had been broken and dumping raw sewage under the hospital for a year. So he went to Dennis and said, hey, let's have the kid go up there and spread lime under the hospital. So they gave me the job. So I went up there and put on a full hazmat suit. I had the hip waders on, rain gear, duct tape to the hip waders, plastic gloves, face mask, you know, breath.
Kelly, we're water damage guys. We know all about what you're talking about.
You know all about it, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
And it was actually summertime. It was fairly warm. It was probably 100, 120 degrees in that crawl space. And I went under there every day for a week straight and spreaded lime under there. Raw sewage. Yep. And then when I got done with that, I helped them fix the leak. Well, it changed everybody's opinion. And they knew from that point that, hey, this kid, and it's 16 years old, you know, I thought I had life figured all out. I was cocky. I was arrogant. You know, I was already drinking and partying. I'd already been in car accidents and motorcycle accidents and all sorts of trouble. But the one thing I didn't know how to do was work.
Yeah, I thought that story was significant because many of us are in circumstances where the boss or there's an opportunity or something comes up and you can choose one way or the other. And this is a point you made in your book. You chose the hard work and to impress the people by doing the hard work and doing the right thing. And you probably saw that many people in your business when you own the business, and we saw it in different guys in our business.
Well, that's what I used to do because I ran operations for our company. So when I'd have a guy who was kind of iffy, I'd throw him in crawl spaces with the sewage and see if they would step up or wilt under the pressure of that. And it's surprising who really makes their mark when you put them in hard situations like that, and you respect them when they're done. Much more so.
Yeah, because a lot of people want to take the easy way out.
Yeah.
You know, and you think back to that day, if I would have taken the easy way out, I wouldn't be sitting in Florida looking at a lake in flip-flops.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's also, it's a bit of an athlete's mentality too, to just get on with it. I always loved hiring athletes because they were into the slog of it because you'd have to be training and practicing all the time. So Larry and I love to hire athletes because they just do it.
And they're a good team.
And they're used to having a coach say, go do this hard thing.
Yep.
You know? So
yeah, I still consult with my old company, and I was back there a couple of weeks ago and we were talking, and they're talking about hiring more people. And they said, you know what, we're going to hire nothing but people with attitude, aptitude, and athletes and farm boys.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So, okay, so you get past 16, you're working 30 hours a week in high school. So, you know, did you get your sense of worth from work? I mean, there must have been something there that like you like to work, obviously.
I did. I that's where I got my sense of worth. You know, like I said, I was not a very good student. I barely graduated high school, but once I got into the working field and started to learn the plumbing trade and the business side of it, then I really became a student.
Yeah.
I really wanted to learn.
Okay.
I would work in the office, you know, or work out in the field during the day. And if I came back and they were still in the office, I'd sit down with them and help them do bids or estimating, you know, order material, whatever needed to be done. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the business.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's get back on your story. So Steve started calling you
Yeah, so I'm in
saying,
Southern
"Come home," I
California.
guess.
He starts calling me, and finally, so I moved down there in 86. So finally in November of 1989, I hadn't been back in that amount of time. I go back up to see him, and by God, it had changed. Things were growing. The economy had changed up there. There was a lot of construction going on. So went to his office, saw what was going on. We went to his house, had dinner, talked for quite a few hours, polished off a few beers. Then I went back to California, called him up, and I said, nope, I'm not coming. Well, at that point in my life, I didn't believe I was worth it.
Right.
Thank God he did.
Yeah.
So
how much older was he than you, Kelly?
22 years.
Okay. So yeah, he'd been around a while.
He'd been around a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still a great friend of mine to this day.
So he saw potential in you that you just couldn't see yet.
Couldn't see in myself. It's funny because a year ago I was down in Arizona, and he's down there. He stays in Arizona in the winter and up in where we grew up in the summer. And I went over to his house and had dinner, and we were talking and laughing and joking. And, I'd showed him my book, and he asked me, he said, kid, and he still calls me kid to this day. He says, why did you ever do that job? He goes, we were trying to get you fired. And I said, well, Steve, I took it as a challenge. I said, I looked at it that, hey, it's a little bit of crap. I've been around farm animals and dairy cows my whole life.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I was getting paid to do it, and it was a great workout program. It was so warm under that crawl space. I mean, I probably lost 20 pounds and got paid to do it.
That week, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I just, instead of taking an attitude of, oh, this is a horrible job, it was like, oh, hey, I'm getting paid. It's a free workout program.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're alone all day, just doing your work down there. Nobody bugging you.
Yeah.
So what changed for you to make your decision to go back north?
So he called me, the whole time he was calling me, he called me every month for 2 years and would ask me to come back.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I could do it. And then finally in November, he called and he had at the time he had a partner. When he left our original company, he went and started this. He had a partner, and they had 3 companies. They had a fire protection company, a plumbing company, and an HVAC company. Well, they decided to separate their partnership. The other guy took the fire protection. Steve kept the plumbing and HVAC. The day after they separated, he called me and he said, okay, kid, here's your offer. To that point, he'd never made me an offer. He just said, come up here and I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
So he said, I'll give you 5% of the company walking in the door. As long as you're with me 5 years, if I don't fire you or you don't quit, that 5% is yours. If you leave or I fire you, it reverts back to me.
Okay.
And buy up to 49% till the day I retire. And then when I retire, you can buy me out. So
that's a pretty good offer.
It is a pretty good offer.
And how big were they at that point? I mean,
at that point, they weren't that big. The company was valued at about $500,000.
Okay.
So it wasn't a big company. I mean, they were doing a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
New construction, about 95% of it was new construction.
Okay.
So I thought about it for a while. I went and talked to I was back working with the tools down there. I was in Laguna Hills working with tools, working on track homes and multifamily stuff. Went and talked to him, and he's like, what are you waiting for? He goes, there's nothing for you here. And he was right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you had a job.
I had a job. And that job was nothing more than to support my drinking habit.
Yeah.
That was it. So I made the decision.
And what are you, like 20, 21?
24.
24, okay.
24. So at that time, I made the decision. I left Laguna, and, I said, I'm never coming back here again.
Yeah.
got back up to Washington, started work January 24th of 1990 for Steve. And then May of that year, I finally sobered up.
All right, well, let's get into that. So did you have to bottom out all the way?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay. And then,
So
go ahead.
By that point in my life, I had been in 3 car accidents I should have been killed in. I'd been in a motorcycle accident I should have been killed in, and I'd been arrested 3 times.
Yeah, you
All
have
for
like a
alcohol.
lot of lives. You have more than 9 lives. When I was reading this book, I'm like, he's alive? He's alive again? Holy, upside down in that car? That motorcycle off the road? Holy smokes.
Well, that's why, I'm flying, I'm doing everything they say you're not supposed to with this COVID. And I'm like, I don't worry about it. And they're like, well, what do you mean you don't worry about it? I'm like, you know what? When my time's up, my time's up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's truth to that. Okay. So you sober up. So what's the path to success from there? Like what, and I know that's not an overnight thing. So what were the steps? Like what's, all right, you're sober and obviously you're working on your sobriety. I'm sure like that feels like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then how do you start making those changes?
Couple different ways. First off, Steve handed me a book called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yep. Right.
I read that book, and Steve knew I wanted to be a millionaire. That was my ultimate dream.
Yeah.
So I read that book. That changed a lot of my perspective as far as finances and money. I mean, you guys know Southern California is very seductive, and when I was down there, very, very seductive. Everybody trying to keep up with the Joneses, everybody, spending, and that's just a lifestyle.
Yep.
And reading The Millionaire Next Door changed my perspective on it and changed how I went about. And I was always fairly good with money, but it took it to another level. Okay. And then just working with Steve. Steve was, like I said, a great mentor that taught me a lot, not only about finances, but about life. And then I ended up buying him out. He retired in 2001. I bought him out. And at that point, I wasn't sure what to do or what direction to go.
So hold on. Before we go, how big had you guys gotten by that point? Like, what was the growth from when you started with Steve again to when you bought him out?
When I bought him out, we were about 3 million. Okay. But you got to remember, it was less than a year after September 11th of 2000.
Oh, yeah. Rough. So did you transition from commercial to start doing residential service plumbing too?
No, we were still mainly commercial and residential new construction. At that time, we were about 85% service or new construction.
Okay.
Bought him out. And like I say, so actually it was April of 2002 is when I bought him out. So we had September 11th happen.
Yeah.
2001. And I bought him out in April of 2002.
That had to be a little scary.
That was a little scary. And that was another pivotal point in my life, another defining moment in my life, because I called my brother. And I said, hey, I'm buying this company. Steve's retiring. What do I do? And he said, go look in the mirror. And I'm like, what?
It's all on you, man.
It's all on me.
Yeah.
It says, go look in the mirror. Start working on yourself.
Yeah.
So I did. I bought Brian Tracy's Universal Laws of Success and Achievement.
Yep.
And I turned my truck into a university on wheels.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I listened to that over and over and over for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And I started working on myself as a person, not just a business leader, but as a overall person. Because by then I'd gotten married, I'd had kids. So, I was trying to become an overall better person.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't you think too, and I think too many guys, I always say blue collar guy owners, but it's really anybody. They don't realize that the business doesn't get better until they get better. Like they're not different things. You can't turn it on and off like a switch. It's the same thing.
Not at all. It's exactly. And I do coaching and mentoring now, And when I have people ask me if I will coach them in their business, I say no. I won't coach them unless I coach them personally as well as their business.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
It does. It starts with you. Every time I had a situation or issue or something in my business, career, and life, I looked at myself first.
Yeah.
What can I do to improve myself personally to go to the next level? And it started at 24 years old when I quit drinking.
Yeah.
Then again, a defining moment, and when I bought Steve out, I looked at myself there. What am I going to do? How am I going to take this company and grow it to the next level?
Yeah.
And I took it from 2002, we were doing 3 million, to 2009, right as the 2008 crash happened, we were doing $6 million.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So what before we head on past that, what other personal development were you using beyond Brian Tracy?
Brian Tracy was the big one up until that point. Now, after 2008, 2009, when that hit, then I did way more personal development.
Okay.
And even jumped into some counseling, personal development work, and I don't have anything specific that I'll read or do. It's just what people have recommended.
So are you doing like Michael Gerber's E-Myth and the typical business books to try to scale a business and make it turnkey and
the business books, but not only that, a lot of personal stuff too. Just in the last couple of years, I've read a lot of Brene Brown.
Okay, yeah.
No, she's great.
Stuff like that where you really got to dig deep and look at yourself deep.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are afraid to do that.
So then were you taking those lessons and bringing it downstream in the plumbing company and teaching everybody else some form of what you were learning?
Some form, yeah. We became, before I sold, and they still are today, really, really big into training. And before I left, we were training 3 to 5 days a week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And at one point, it was 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And
So what changes were you seeing by doing that?
Oh, dramatic changes. Dramatic. And it wasn't just about business either. It was a lot of personal. We had one day that was specifically for personal development.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. No, Larry and I did the same thing. We fought that for years and years, thinking that wasn't really part of what being a business owner was.
Right.
And then, you get your ass kicked long enough, you start learning. And then when we were doing, 10 to 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week for the last several years. And it wasn't until then that our business got good.
Yeah, that's when it took off. That's when the guys started buying in. They became better technicians, better people.
Better people, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you can help, the more you help people get what they want and deserve, the more you'll get in return.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it takes time to figure that out. And, if you can make people, I've been taught, surround yourself with good people and good things will happen.
Yeah. No.
That has been throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of crap happen to me, but I've had people around me that have helped support me through all that.
Yeah. So what do you think is, you're coaching all these other, I'm assuming plumbing and HVAC companies mainly. So what do you think the great blind spot for many of those owners is? The thing that you see the most often that they're just not getting right, where they're always, upset about something in their company, which we all see.
They're afraid to let go. Yeah. They're afraid to let people, they're afraid to step out of their comfort zone and let people do their job.
Yeah.
People make mistakes. We all, as owners, we all want to keep it here, and we want to know everything. Enter a couple groups through the Service Nation as well, and we were talking about it today on the call. And one of the guys is struggling with that, and I said, the sooner you can let go, and realize that people can do the job just as well as you can, the easier your life's going to be.
Well,
Because
oftentimes they do it better than the owner does.
they do, yeah.
Because the owner tends to be good at being a generalist, not good at specific tasks, you know?
Yeah. We just get in the way as owners, don't we?
Totally. So when you're coaching these people and you're communicating to Service Roundtable or your clients, what do you do? What is generally can you do to get them to let go? I mean, it doesn't happen immediately, obviously. But what starts pushing them in that direction generally?
The biggest thing is getting it out of your head and getting it on paper. Getting operations manuals in place.
Yep.
You know, we all want to hold it in our heads and we want to be, you know, the person that everybody comes to. Well, that can only last for so long. And you guys know as well as anybody because you guys grew crazy.
Oh, we had the same problem. It was all in our head. And, you know, and I was super guilty of liking to be the hub of every wheel because, you know, what's that do? It empowers me.
Yeah.
I got the answer for everything. You know, every other job over here that I'm not on has got huge problems, but I'm answering these questions, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, Larry and I were like an amalgamation of what you just said. So I like to be the hub of the wheel, and Larry had a really hard time letting go. Like, you know, so we had to manage that too. No, it wasn't until we invested in building out systems, just like you said, investing time, energy, money into our team. That's when we really started to go, you know?
And I tell everybody that's going to be the hardest transition you ever make in your business life is going from working in the business to working on the business and making that step back. Because to let go of that is just, it's major anxiety for a lot of owners.
Absolutely. Well, and, you know, I always talk to all of my friends or any of my clients about, you know, I try to take them back to the beginning and say, what was your dream? Like when you were sitting in your garage going, I'm going to start my own plumbing company. What did that look like? I know it doesn't look like what it looks like now, right? You know, so like, give me what your first idea of what you thought being a business owner was going to look like. And then they, you know, they'll always tell me this thing, and basically what it is, it's a turnkey business. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what all the steps are to work backwards to get you closer to your dream. Because, you know, most guys get in, and Larry always says it's like boiling the frog. Like 10 years later, you look up and you're like, I'm miserable. I'm about to die. And I don't know why I hate this so much.
How did it happen?
Because
like,
you've been like this the whole time. You know? You know, so.
Yeah, you know, we tell our technicians, you know, don't be like this going into a house, but yet what do we do as owners?
Totally. Yeah. You know, that's the reality. And, you know, I always think too, and I know you must feel this way, the set of qualities that helps you start a business is generally the same set of qualities that keeps you from growing it and scaling it later. Because, you know, you're independent, you're going to make it happen. You know, I have the answer for everything. And I always say, you know, hey, startup's only supposed to be like a year or two, you know, and then at some point you got to move past that. And
you got to get past that.
And a lot of guys are in startup mode for 25 years.
And I truly believe the only way to get past it is look at yourself.
Yeah.
It goes back to working on everything I talk about, and everything that has ever happened to me has come back to holding that mirror up. You know,
I mean, if anybody could take one thing from this podcast, it's you saying that it's more working on yourself.
Yes.
Like, nobody's really pushing that message real hard, but it's so true.
So true. You got to work on yourself. If you don't work on you know, they say a zebra never changes its stripes. I completely disagree with that. I'm a completely different person than I was 5 years ago. I'm a completely different person 10 years ago, 15, 20, you know, every time I make a change in my life and I progress forward, it's because I've looked in the mirror and said, okay, what can I do as a person to become a better person? Whether it be a husband, father, you know, business owner, mentor, whatever. What can I do to improve myself to make other people better and help other people?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
That's awesome.
things that you did, you had a coach. You had Brian Tracy on the cassette decks
Yeah.
in your truck or your CD or 8-track or whatever you had going on at the time.
8-track.
We don't want to date ourselves, do we, Larry?
Maybe not 8-track, maybe cassette, because I remember
Cassettes.
we got some Tony
I
Robbins
had an
cassettes around
8-track in
here.
high school, man. I thought
But
it was
the
super
thing-
cool.
It's getting the direction, the coaching. So you got to reach out and get a coach to push you in that direction. Just, if you get a temporary coach, a full-time coach, we had a couple coaches that helped us dramatically, just like you said. And it's not always, people doesn't cross their mind and they don't think, oh, I don't need the help, I'm doing good.
Well, they don't see it as an investment. They see coaching as an expense.
Yeah.
It's not an expense.
No.
Always, if you actually do what the coach tells you, I think even if you had a mediocre coach, if you still did what that person told you, you'd probably still get 10 times the value at minimum of what you pay.
Yeah.
Probably 100 times.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. I mean, I don't know if any of you watched it, but they just had The Last Dance on with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. I'm going to.
Okay.
What was the crux of that?
You're not going to?
No, I am going to.
Okay.
No, all day.
But Michael Jordan had a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about
Well,
that
look
all
at
the
Tiger
time.
Woods. Tiger Woods always has a
Woods?
swing coach.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
all the highest-
any high performer has a coach.
All the highest paid actors in the world have acting coaches.
Yeah. It's illogical to think that you can open up a business and have all the answers.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Makes no sense at all. And then, my next big thing in changing was when the economy crashed in 2000, and up in the Pacific Northwest, it was 2009.
Okay.
2009, we had our biggest year ever. It was $6 million. 85% of that was new construction.
Right.
And 2008, my partners and I were talking because I had after I bought Steve out, I had brought in 2 other partners and we were talking, and we said, this can't keep going. This is just, there's something going on. We don't know what it is, but we need to change our direction and focus. So we decided to rebrand the company because the company's name originally was Commercial Plumbing Incorporated. So we decided to rebrand the company and start focusing more on service and repair. And we did that. And by doing that, I dropped out of the union because we were a union shop.
Right.
So 2009, I drop out in August of 2009. I drop out of the union. It was actually August 10th of 2009. I can give you exact dates on this stuff.
Knows the time and the seconds.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then something bad must have happened because if you know the
something
date.
bad happened. So we drop out of the union in 2009. By the end of that year, we do $6 million. By August of 2010, we're on track to do $3 million. And I get hit with a $500,000 pension liability notice from the union.
Ooh.
So we go from 6 million to 3 million, and now I have to pay the union back a $500,000.
Yeah, and I don't care what your margins are. That's still a lot of money.
And at that point, because of what had happened with the economy, I took a 25% pay cut. All the rest of my employees took a 10% pay cut. We had just tightened everything up. We'd started looking at the numbers. That's when I read the E-Myth, jumped into that, and then you guys know Kenny Chapman.
Yep.
I hired Kenny Chapman as a coach, but not only on business, because Kenny's more of a life guy than he is a business guy.
Right.
I hired him on the business side or on the personal side and started diving in on the more personal development.
Yeah. So are you guys doing like disc training and stuff like that, or?
Kenny actually had a life coach that he went through years ago with, and he did a CD workbook series called Unleash Your Greatest Life. It's a 21-day series. The first 7 days is relationship with yourself. So you listen to the CD and then you sit down to a workbook and start filling it out. The second 7 days is relationship with others. And the last 7 days, relationship with finance.
Wow, that's powerful.
Took me 3 months to get through that.
Yeah.
most powerful personal development work I've ever done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, just to spend 7 days on your relationship with yourself is painful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be really honest with yourself, that's got to be really painful.
You got to dig deep.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
And the thing is, I was going through counseling at the time as well.
Yeah. You were putting a lot of work in.
I was.
Yeah.
So we got through that. You know, the union, we had 3 years to pay the union off, and we ended up paying it off a year early. So we paid it off in June of 2012. And then September of that year, my wife passed away unexpectedly.
Dude.
Yeah, you're getting hit from all angles there, huh?
Yeah. So again, you know, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well,
Bury
you had
myself.
daughters, so you had to be proactive. You had
Yeah,
to.
I had a 15-year-old and 17-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
and,
your whole
you know,
story is just basically getting the crap beat out of you and then rising up. Well, no, it's true. You know, and I think a lot of guys have this. I mean, I think yours is more
yeah.
extreme, but you know, yeah. So how did you start to rebound from that?
Again, dove back into more personal development, more counseling, more personal development. What can I do? You know, here, I'm 48 years old. My wife was 48. I got the company. You know, we just paid the union off. Things are looking good. By that point, we had built her dream home. We had paid it off. We had a vacation property that we had paid off. We were investing, you know, buying the building that the company was in. We were, you know, everything was going exactly how we had planned it. And then that happens. So I can't stop. I mean, my oldest daughter is a senior in high school, and my youngest is a sophomore.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be
So-
strong for them and keep plugging away, right?
And I got the company. So
Yeah.
I, you know, fortunate enough, I had put, because of what happened with the union stuff, we had started, you know, I had really stepped back and started working on the business. You know, I had read the E-Myth. I'd started adopting a lot of things out of the E-Myth. I had the coach in place. You know, Kenny was coaching me and helping me. So I had all that in place. Thank God I did.
Yeah.
Because when she passed away, if I wouldn't have had that in place, God only knows what would have happened.
Right. Yeah.
the
you had
systems helped, obviously, so you didn't have
The
to be there.
systems helped, yeah.
So
And-
how much in the business were you working by that point? I mean, like what percentage on and what percentage in at this juncture?
Probably 75% on it,
Okay.
25% in it.
Yeah.
But when she passed away, I stepped away for over a month
Yeah. Yeah.
and basically just went in and said, okay, Brad's running the company. He was one of the partners. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm putting him in charge. I'm stepping away. Don't know when I'll be back.
Right.
In the shed. In the shed. In the shed.
Shed?
Yeah, the cottage. Sorry about that.
It's all
okay.
good. We're in coronavirus time. Everything's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, then question. So what did you find when you came back after a month?
I found some really good stuff. Number one, you know, they were having a meeting that morning. I came right after the meeting, and our training room was upstairs, and I was at the base of the stairs. And excuse me, I get choked up sometimes.
No, that's understandable.
As every single employee came down that stairs, they gave me a hug and said, welcome back.
Well,
But-
that's because you built a culture.
But the thing was, even the first month I was back, I just went in my office and sat there.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. They were running the company. The company was running as smoothly, if not better, than before I left.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the crux of my question. You know, did it actually run better when you got a little more out of the way for a while?
Mm-hmm. It did.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, it was 100% on the business.
Yeah.
And I never re-engaged to working in the business from that point forward.
Now, did you keep going in, or
Yes.
did you kind of?
No, I kept going in.
Yeah.
I kept going in until about 2016. And then I started stepping away, doing more coaching and consulting and different things.
Well, let's use that as the perfect segue then, Kelly, to let's talk about your coaching. Let's tell everybody who doesn't know you on the podcast what you're doing with that, what you're offering, and just kind of the nuts and
Sure.
bolts of what you're providing for people, because we think it's an important message.
Sure. Well, first off, like we've talked a lot about, I do coaching and success mentoring with owners, but I won't do it on just business. I'm also a master financial coach through Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
Part of when we were doing our training at my old company, one of the things we wanted to do was bring in financial wellness and financial smarts to the employees. So I became a master financial coach through Dave Ramsey and ended up teaching that to my employees.
That's
Okay, let me
huge
interrupt for a
value to
second
them.
here. So we kind of did similar things. We come back from a coaching week, and we come back and hit them with the concept that we got taught with.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't resonate. We had to, Eric Tech whispered it, and it tweaked it.
Well, I
So
had to
that-
learn that I had to take the lessons that, like when I got John Maxwell certified, I came back and was doing stuff right from the book, which if you really read the books, it's a little more white collar ish. And it wasn't resonating with the team at all. So I had to then go take all those lessons and reconfigure them to our world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm still doing that to this day. That's what we do. But, it took me a learning curve to figure out how to get those guys to engage me in that stuff, because that wasn't really their world. And I'm assuming Dave Ramsey stuff's even less in their world.
Yeah. So that's my question. Did you have to tweak it? Because the blue collar world. I mean, you've lived it your whole life.
Yep.
Is there a lot of changes?
So I did tweak it. So Dave Ramsey has what's called Financial Peace University, and he teaches it all over the world, mainly done through churches. But when I dug into it, and I dug into it because my ex-partner, my Brad, who's running the company now, he had said something. He had been a disciple of Dave Ramsey, and I never had. So when I started looking into it, I'm like, oh God, I've followed his principles pretty much my whole life. So I found out that they had what's called core financial wellness, which is similar to Financial Peace University, but without the religious tone, so it's more for business. I became a facilitator for that, and what they teach in that is Dave teaches 7 steps to becoming financially free. And one is get $1,000 emergency fund. Number 2 is get rid of all your debt. Number 3 is 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. 4, pay off your house. 5, save for college. 6, save for retirement. And 7, build wealth. But what I learned teaching that, and what I've learned even more since I've started teaching it out on my own, is that's too high level for a lot of people. Because the way he teaches it is you do steps 1 through 3 to where you become debt free. You get 3 to 6 months of expenses. Then you do steps 4, 5, and 6 in conjunction with each other. Just save for college, pay off your house, and save for retirement. Most people, you lose them. They're like, oh, I'll never pay off my house, or I'll never be debt, I'll never have college paid for, or this. So I break it down even less than that. And what I do is I teach people the habits of money, the difference between wants and needs, the relationship between husband and wife or spouses and money, how to get $1,000 emergency fund, how to budget, and how to get out of debt.
Yeah. And
if I can teach those principles, it can change somebody's life forever.
So then how did that play out with your team as you started to implement that? I mean, we're resistant at first, and then all of a sudden they start to come aboard and then really buy in, or?
Well, when I did the first core financial wellness, it actually went pretty well. So when I did it, and that was 2014, We had only 14 of the employees had taken the class. But the mistake I made by doing it was I did not have their spouses in there.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But it still worked pretty well. Out of those 14 employees, the total debt load was $186,000, not including mortgages.
Okay.
I took 16 weeks to do it. Normally, Financial Peace University is an 8-week course, but I took 16 weeks to do it. When we got done, that debt load was down to $146,000.
In 16 weeks.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But since then, since I've gone out on my own, I've been into multiple companies where I go in and I do either a 2-hour class or a 6-hour workshop. And that's where I just teach them the habits, the difference between wants and needs, the relationship, how to get the $1,000 emergency fund, how to budget, and how to get rid of debt. And I can take just about anybody out there, depending on their debt. And I mean, I got a lady I worked with back home, $109,000 in debt. She'll be completely debt-free in less than 24 months.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then I can take a lot of people, once I get them debt-free, I can show them how they can have their house paid off in 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So how do people what are you doing now, especially because you're not, you can't go anywhere. So are you doing online? Are you doing like Zoom courses right now and stuff, or?
I've done a few webinars. I'm working with my marketing gal right now to get some more set up.
Okay.
Actually, I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately too because of the book.
Now's the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you doing HVAC companies, plumbing companies, contractors, water dam, like pretty much mostly blue collar, or are you going beyond that as well?
Actually, I've done mainly blue collar up until right before the coronavirus hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother runs a couple dealerships, car dealerships in Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I came down and I had done some classes for them.
Okay.
And you think the blue collar industry's messed up?
Oh no, nothing's worse than car guys.
The white collar industry.
White collar as well.
Is just as bad. Yeah.
There's a lot of debt there.
You know, statistics show that 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And that was before the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And only 4 in 10 have $1,000 set aside in an emergency fund.
Right.
So if I can show people, you know, how to get an emergency fund set up, how to get rid of your debt, and how to budget, and I do it through the course and story of my life of what I had been through and how I had gotten there. Because, you know, I moved back to Seattle area in 1990, sobered up that year, met my wife in 92, or met her the same year, got married in 92, had our daughters in 94 and 97. When 2002, I had bought Steve out, built her dream home in 2003, had it paid off in 2006.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
2008, we had bought a vacation home with another couple and paid cash for that.
Yeah.
By the time she passed away, we had bought the commercial building that we were in, and our goal was to have it paid off in June of 2013, and I did that the year after she passed away. I paid it off.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so how can people find you, Kelly?
It's really simple. KellySchols.com. That's KellySchols.com.
Okay. And then is the website the place to go? Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn as well?
Look at the Facebook page and see him water skiing. He's a pretty good water skier.
It's all the same.
Okay.
Facebook is Kelly Schols Inc. LinkedIn is Kelly Schols Inc. I wanted to keep it simple. Remember, I wasn't a very good student, so I got to keep things simple.
No, well, I wasn't a good student either, so I'm glad you did, because I'd never find you otherwise.
Yeah.
And a compliment to you, Kelly. There was a phone number on your website, and I just called it, and bam, it went right to you. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It was easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this is how we started working together and communicating. And I'm very impressed with your story. It's very cool.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Well, thank you
Keep
for
it simple.
joining us, Kelly. We really appreciate it. And it was
Yeah.
really interesting. And I think people could get a lot out of this.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'll be down in LA in the middle of June, so I'll get a hold of you guys.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Sounds good. We've met up with a couple of podcast guests coming through town.
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
great. Yeah. So awesome.
Sounds
Larry,
good.
any final words?
No, that was great. Very inspiring. Our listeners need to take this in consideration where you are in life, that things can get much better real quick if you just focus on things. Look what Kelly accomplished. So that was very cool.
Perfect. All right. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.